So before anybody says, well, you should just write this story because obviously you've thought a lot about it, I just want to say that I am a terrible writer. I am great at coming up with ideas for plots, and I can even come up with characters, but I am terrible at coming up with names for those characters, and I am terrible at writing dialogue, and I am terrible at writing action scenes. I can give you great big long descriptive paragraphs about what this person is supposed to look like and their personality, but everything else, forget it. But this is something that I have wanted to see since elementary school. And the reason why I've wanted to see it since elementary school is because of how my friends used to react. I am really into vampires. I really love vampires. No, not the sparkling kind, okay? The only sparkles I want to see are on an actual disco ball. The sparkling kind are not vampires. The only one who's allowed to sparkle around here is Jareth the Goblin King. Alright? I'm talking about Dracula. I'm talking about the vampires from Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Yes, I actually liked the book and I liked the movie, okay? I did. I'm talking about Carmilla. I'm talking about Varney. I'm talking about Ruthven. You know, I'm talking about vampires here. But my friends back in elementary school were all about Freddy Krueger. And they always used to get on me. How can you like Dracula? He's so lame. He's not the least bit scary, not like Freddy. So the thing I have wanted to see since elementary school is Freddy Krueger versus Dracula. And I honestly think Dracula could kick Freddy's butt. I honestly do. And for those who are not familiar with vampire folklore, I'm going to put some things out there that are going to blow your little mind. Vampires do not just drink blood. If you go back to the original folklore, vampires also feed on psychic energy. And I know some people freak out when I say this because I had somebody going off about how this is all hippie nonsense, but this is from the actual folklore from like the 1700s and way back when that I've found in actual research books. Vampires can feed on psychic energy, but it's not like that psychic vampire stuff that you hear about where they show like the aura being pierced and everything. The energy they feed off of either comes from causing nightmares or causing orgasms. Sometimes both. Which means Dracula can control the dream world. And here's something else from folklore that Hollywood has, for the most part, ignored, with a few exceptions. Vampires can go out in the daylight. In fact, in the original novel Dracula, Count Dracula was seen in the daytime stalking a woman with a very big hat. Jonathan Harker saw Dracula wandering around daytime London stalking a woman with a very big hat. Well, I say stalking, he just saw him watching her and kind of assumed he followed her. Which I would love to hear a story about what happened with that woman because we never hear about her again, but it's obvious that the Count was feeding on her or going to. Because he didn't just feed on Lucy and Mina, people. He didn't just feed on Lucy and Mina. So, vampires can go about in the daytime. Now, I know you're sitting there thinking, now why would Dracula go after Freddy Krueger? Now, I'm going to get the quote wrong, because I can't remember the exact quote, and I can't remember who said it, but it's something that I saw years ago online. It's apparently a preacher said it at one point, and it goes something like, the devil's prettiest trick was convincing people he doesn't exist. And that is the reason why I think Dracula would go after Freddy Krueger. I want you to imagine a world where not only Freddy Krueger exists, and Jason, and Pinhead, I want you to imagine them all in a combined universe, even Chucky, But so do fairies, and so do vampires, and so do ghouls, and ghosts, and demons, and angels, and just about werewolves, and skinwalkers, and shapeshifters of all sorts. All right, now with the exception of the angels, I want you to imagine all those creatures getting together and making a pact that they are going to manipulate both science and religion to convince people they don't exist. Because there are religious people who do not believe in demons. They believe that the devil is an allegory, and it's just a warning tale, and that demons and hell and everything actually doesn't exist. There are religious people who do not believe in demons and do not believe in hell. And, of course, you've got the whole science side. So they've been manipulating both science and religion for millennia to protect themselves by shrouding themselves in this aura of they don't exist. And then all of a sudden, you've got these young upstarts like Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers, and even that doggone doll Chucky, and that renegade leprechaun, and of course the Cenobites, openly killing people and coming back again and again and again. And that threatens the entire supernatural species, because eventually, if people accept that Freddy Krueger actually exists and that he's actually some sort of supernatural being, it's not going to be long before somebody starts researching other supernatural things. And suddenly you've got college courses involving werewolf hunting and vampire hunting, and people are carrying around iron to ward off the fairies, because the fairies are actually really dark. All right, the fairies are actually really dark creatures. They will curse you and kill you and kidnap you and make you their sex slave and all that. So Freddy Krueger and Jason and all that are a danger to the entire supernatural community. And so, because Dracula is a vampire, and vampires can manipulate dreams, he is the perfect choice to send against Freddy Krueger. And he says to Freddy, either I destroy you completely because I've got a device that will destroy you forever, or you agree to abide by our pact and only kill a certain amount and not be so flamboyant and not make it so obvious. You either work with us or we will destroy you completely. And Dracula lets him know, and we never see that device. We should never ever see that device that Dracula's carrying. Okay? You'll see why when I get to the end. He says to him, I will destroy you completely. I have the power to destroy you completely. Alright? So you get Dracula moving to Springfield and moving to Elm Street specifically. And he's this suave, rich guy who starts seducing any woman who has some sort of connection to children. The single mother, the teacher, the school counselor, a nurse, or a pediatrician, what have you. And because that way he can get that connection to the teens and the children of Springfield, not because he's going to do anything sexual to them. He's got their mothers for that and their school teachers for that. But because he's going to get into their dreams to get to Freddy. And just imagine for a moment the kind of things that Dracula could do that could actually reference other horror movies. Because I can imagine Dracula as this great big horror movie aficionado. Just imagine Freddy suddenly finds himself facing a very tall shadow. And all of a sudden, these silver balls with blades start chasing him. And at the very last second, Freddy manages to take control of those spears and send them into his intended victim instead. You know, so but Dracula should have more control eventually because he's been at this for centuries. The only difference is Dracula is playing on Freddy's turf. So Freddy knows the minds of the kids of Elm Street a lot better than Dracula, and therefore at the beginning should have more control to make it a more even fight. But yes, I just did, in case you didn't get it, I just did say that there should be a scene in there where Dracula references Phantasm. And that's the kind of thing I see. And I see Dracula as eventually defeating Freddy. And we never see the actual device that Dracula uses to defeat him. Because I would like this to be a series of crossover movies. With as many different horror franchises that would like to be involved. You know, we could see the next thing being a Friday the 13th thing, and Dracula can be there as like maybe the camp counselor, but he's actually not the one fighting Jason, because there are fairies that are specifically waterborne, like Jenny Greenteeth and Kelpies and stuff like that. And those are the ones that could do the majority of the battling of Jason, but Dracula's there because he still has this device. And, you know, and it just should just keep going on where we never see this device until the final movie. And it, you know, and we finally get to the final movie. Freddy's been defeated, Jason's been defeated, Michael Myers has been defeated, Chucky's been defeated, and hopefully the Leprechaun has been defeated. And each one of them has battled a different supernatural element, with Dracula being the main guy around to deliver the final death blow. And we should not see that box until that last one is defeated. And I just said box. I think it should be a certain puzzle box. And that the movie should end with Freddy and Jason and the rest of them behind a certain gentleman who was now in league with the Count, because we have such things to show you.